Good afternoon. Thank you very much for attending this session. I know it's the end of a rather long and warm day. We started this, the idea of this was discussed by Professor Sachidanand and Ravi because it's the, as the 25th year of the publication, the first publication of Bama Faustina's, Bama Suserajaso, as her name is, her full name, the publication of her autobiography, Karukku. I wanted to ask her, you know, I don't remember celebrating the 25th year of Chemmin. I don't know if there was a 25th year marker for the Samskara, Ananthamurtis, or Bharatipura, or M.T. Vasudevan Nayar's Nalagatta. I know that there was a 50th year celebration for Nalagatta in 2007 in Trichur. So that itself is something quite different. The context of this, those who read Dalit writing, either in the regional language in which it is published or in English translation, are at a point where they're saying or telling themselves, or even the publishers of those translations, isn't the boom in Dalit writing over? But the literature festivals that I've attended, either as a listener or as speaker, show that there is a huge ignorance about it. Even extremely well-educated people afterwards come up to me, or as this morning in the airport someone said to me, why is there this marker? Why Dalit writing? I don't know how many times we've had to explain, myself and so many others, that this is an experience which has been shut out of the mainstream, and that this category of writer did not have a voice, partly because they didn't have the education. And even after they were educated, even after they started to write, they were not published because all the publishing houses were in the hands of non-Dalits who had deep prejudices, partly their own and partly set up by norms which the market recognized, and these writings did not match, which is the reason Bama's Karukku was published not by a recognized publisher at all, but by Bama's teacher, who had a center which said new ideas. Or was it just ideas? Just ideas. 2 weeks ago, he said at a public function that he had held a workshop in Madurai in 1992 for Dalit youngsters. And the celebrated writer Prabhanjan was invited to look at the writings and assess them. And these youngsters said, what do you want us to write about? So both Father Mark and Prabhanjan said, write about yourself, write about your experience. And when they'd finished, and when Prabhanjan went through the material, he said, if you people start writing, there is no place for us. We'll have to back off. It was at the same time that Bama wrote to her teacher and said, I have to leave the convent. And he said, don't leave the convent. And a week after this workshop, she arrived at his doorstep and said, I'm completely broken. Nobody wants me. I can't go home. Everybody's angry with me. I just don't know what to do. So one of the ways he consoled her was by telling her, write it all out. Write it. So, Bama, tell us a little bit about how you felt at that time and how you began to write.
Yeah, it was in 1991 when I decided to leave the convent and I came out. knowingly that I am going to suffer, because there was no job, no security, nothing. And I was not able to go back to my own house also in my village, because it was considered as a disgrace to come back to the village from a convent life. So knowingly I made a decision. It was a hard decision, but anyway, but I couldn't stay on there also. So I came out. And after coming to Madurai, I met that priest, Father Mark, and as Minnie was sharing, he told me to write my emotions, my feelings, my disappointments, because for me that time life was so difficult. All of a sudden, it has come to an end, like I felt. And no hope also to look at the future, or no happy moments in the past also in the convent. But somehow I wanted to live. So when I shared with him, he told me to write it down. And I began to write just for my own sake, my own healing. As I was writing, I could see what I have lost in my life, because the freedom, the happiness that I have enjoyed in my own streets in the village, and my own people, and that sense of belonging to a group. Though I was in poverty, but still there was some sort of satisfaction and happiness in life with people in the village. And to the top of it, the culture that I have lost, the Dalit culture. Because this culture did not blend with the Western culture which I found in the convent life. So that was a suffocation. But when I came out, I felt free and I was able to breathe free. And as I wrote, once again I felt happy, that as if I am going to a familiar place, I am going to the familiar people, and enjoy that freedom of flying again. But still, the pain was there. So for about 6 months I wrote. Then when I completed it, I showed the notebook to him. And he and his friends, the Jesuit priests, they told me we could publish it as a book. And I was shocked to hear that, because I have written all the truth, and even the names of the people, characters, everything was real, and they are still living. So I thought people, when they read it, they may be angry with me, because I have written their nicknames and everything as it is in real life. But they were so stubborn, and they told me to, and some part of it I wrote in classical Tamil, and some part I wrote in people's dialect. And they advised me to write the whole text in people's language, and I wrote it. But it was a very difficult time to find a publisher to publish it, because wherever they went, they read it and said, what kind of language is this? What kind of text is it? And it is rubbish. And one professor in Trichy, he just threw the text away. Then they decided that they will publish it in their own idea. That is a social work center. So they started a press, and they for this sake, and published it. That's how it came out.
Good start. Publishing it was one thing in Tamil. It's partly the part of destiny, and partly perhaps the force of the work itself. Not that I was not writing by Tamil Dalits before that, but this was the first autobiography by a woman in Tamil, by a Dalit woman. You know, those days, this is, Bama wrote this not with an intention to publish it. The history gets more and more, what should I say, powerful and mysterious. Because when it was, I really don't know who sent it to the Hindu, because those days the Hindu had a regional language section on their Tuesday page. And who reviewed this? None other than Ashokamitran, a famous and established writer in Tamil, whom many of you may have heard of or read in translation. He passed away recently. He wrote a review. And my colleague read it and said, at that time, 92, I just started this, the review appeared in 93. I had started a series of translations through Macmillan's, blundering around because I knew very little. I still don't know much. I had only a very vague idea of what I should do, but I felt I had to do something. So she said, I read a review about something, it's called Karukku, something very new. Just read it because Ashoka Mitran has written the reviews. I read the review and called up Ashoka Mitran. I said, can you tell me something more about this? And he said, I don't know what it is. I'm not even sure this is very good Tamil, but it has some sort of a power. It's got it's a very new voice. I think you should have 2 or 3 people read it and try and include it, because it's an experience which I have never seen before come through in Tamil. Maybe it'll fit your series. And the other thing was, I was looking for small works. I didn't want to do 400-page books. So he said it'll fit that slot too. So I had it read. And 2 or 3 people said, yes, it's something very new, but it won't fit into the novel thing. You should do something else. So I thought of autobiographies. Anyway, I kept blundering around and looking for, I had a number of 4 or 5 translators working on the other series because I was planning to do 50 books, and there were 5 works from Tamil. All of them turned it down. My teacher from Bangalore wrote and said, I heard you started a translation program. Can I do something for you? I can translate from Tamil. I went to see her, I gave her the book, and she said, please, not this. So that was 93. 5 years later came an inquiry from Lakshmi Holmstrom in the UK saying, may I translate this? So both of us said, we can't get someone better than Lakshmi. And that's how Karukku was published. I can tell you now that there were a lot of very, very polished, very, very British words in that first draft, the second draft also. And the final was also critiqued widely, though it won a prize, by people who said, this language is too polished, and it doesn't quite reflect the raw, earthy language which the author uses. But still, like Da Vinci said, if not the fountain, let's at least have a jug of water. So Karukku is that jug of water which introduced us to the writing. I'd like to say that the other milestone it crossed was it was the first time when it was entered for the Crossword Award. It was the first time that Dalit writing overtook mainstream writing. And the other accident of history is that the Crossword Award was actually for a translation of fiction. On the cover of Karukku, it said very clearly that it's an autobiography. It didn't even say autobiographical fiction or fictional autobiography, nothing of the kind. It said autobiography, but it was picked up and given, it won the award. And really after that, neither book nor author ever looked back. So I'd like to go from there to the idea of translation, the power of translation in your life. As an activist, as a writer, as an activist, as a teacher, and as a feminist. I'm not very sure about this Dalit feminism. I'd like you to explain that a little more. But could you talk about translation, not just into English, because you've also been translated into other languages, and successfully into Malayalam. Certainly Sangati is a success. Bama.
Yeah, after English translation and after the Crossword Award, it was noticed not only in India but in abroad too. And many colleges, universities, they teach this book actually, Karukku, Sangadi, and Vanbam also. Yeah, and but only in the department of English. But in the department of Tamil, they hesitate to have this book. I don't know why. And when recently I went to Annamalai University, Sidambaram, and also to Loyola, Chennai, from them I heard that based on caste it is rejected. Caste. They pointed out the dialect, the language, it's not okay. And the content also was not okay. And this is not up to the mark as they expected. So these are the reasons the department people told them. But in most of the universities all over India, even 2 days back I was in Puducherry, a woman from Canada, she brought Sangadi and Karukku. She told me to get my signature. She told me that she is teaching Sangadi in her university. I was really shocked and was happy too. Because the Indian people, when they refuse it, the foreigners, they picked it up and they are teaching to their students that text. That way I am very happy and proud also because it is available in English. At the same time, it is translated into Telugu, Kannadam, Malayalam, in the regional language, and in Hindi also, certain part of it. And Sangadi, actually, Vijay Kumar Gunniseri, he translated and it was serialized in Madhrubhumi. And it was well received here also. I heard, because I don't know Malayalam to read, but many people told me that it is a very good translation. Also Karukku by the name Pandamul, something like that, and it was published by DC Books. Here also people actually celebrated the books. And in Kannada, Karnataka, Andhra, Maharashtra, so they welcomed it happily, and people may not know me as Bama, but everybody, wherever I go, they know my books. Karukku, Sangadi, One Memory. The book actually introduces me, not I don't introduce my book. That's how it has come out.
I'd like to ask, okay, this fascination which the non-Indian seems to have with the whole idea of caste in India, which is very perplexing to them. They simply can't understand, I think. How much of it is morbid curiosity? And, there is this horrid thing called caste. Have you heard or watched any YouTube lectures on the lessons or the classroom teaching of these texts and how students there respond, one, and how, let me finish my question, and how the teacher introduces the text, what aspect of India is shown. And the other thing is, about 2 years ago, I published a textbook of Dalit writings designed for study in classrooms, and it failed because I think the same problem. The teachers, unless it's a prescribed text, somebody very powerful in a department or a board of studies prescribes it and students have to buy it. But in the autonomous colleges, people hesitate because it's very difficult. These are very ticklish things to raise in class, both for the Dalit student to listen to enter a discussion. Emotions run high, Dalits, non-Dalits, which shows how casteism affects everybody. Have you any clue, since you've traveled so much and met with so many people, how do they handle these texts in class? How is it handled? I really would like to know. As a sociology text, as a literary text?
No, this is taught on different titles actually. Dalit literature, feminist literature, and subordinate literature, literature in translation. So they give different names when they teach. I came to know that it is prescribed in CBSE school itself. And one director, Amir, in Tamil, he invited me once and he told me, my daughter is studying your book in her school, in 10th standard, 11th, 12th. So I thought I would ask you to write something for me for my movie, which I didn't. That time only I came to know, but when I looked, checked in the YouTube and net, it was there. English, not in Tamil, English.
And that's something a publisher doesn't know about because I don't think we aren't getting this.
And there are questions asked from Karukku, and for even entrance test they ask from Karukku and Sangadi. It was news for me because people tell me just because the author of Karukku, objective type, Bama, Shivagami, and we have to choose. And in Tamil, modern Tamil literature, there in BA first year or second year, they mention this. They don't teach it. But in the universities and colleges, they teach it as textbooks. What I have found is Afro-American students learn, and it is in Canada, they learn it, and in New York and US, they teach this. In many colleges, universities, they teach it, and they really like it. But in Indian context, here what I found is, students learn it just because it is prescribed to them. not with interest or with the mind of knowing what it is, or with the social consciousness. That way they don't read it. And the faculty members also, they are not very much interested in it, because many of them are from non-Dalit group, and they teach it with half-heartedly, and they don't have any discussions. And many scholars, they do MPhil and research work based on many thesis titles, and even comparative literature, comparing my work and Alice Walker, Maya Angelou, Afro-American writers. And I myself know, because so many scholars come to me for interviews and they discuss with me. But when in real life, after getting their doctorate, that is it, that is the end of it. And if you go to see them, their real life in the universities or in the hostels or in the classrooms, they don't even talk to their fellow Dalit students. They just ignore them, or they criticize them, saying, oh, these are all people who came with the reservation, or these are all SC people. So they have different vocabulary to insult them, to humiliate them. So at the beginning, I used to be very happy and proud that so many are doing research, and more and more people are coming, interviewing me, all those things. But when I go to colleges, universities, when people share these things with me, then I used to think, what is the point of giving interviews? What is the point of doing research? What is the point of this education, first of all? Why this education? It is not helping them in any way to broaden their mind. It's not helping them any way to talk about caste even. And they don't realize that it is a social evil, it is a disease of the soul in the country. But they are doing all kinds of research and gloriously come out with their doctorate degree. So I don't find any meaning or any point in it.
Yes, I think it's a phase we have to go through. It's a phase. When we went to go out together, just before I think halfway through your session, Subodh Sarkar said to you, you know, Bama, you're no longer marginalized. I don't know if you remember that. He suddenly popped up and said, you're no longer marginalized. You're a star. You're mainstream. What do you feel about that? I mean, you've come a long way, and with you, both Karukku and a number of other books that appeared around that time, I'm talking about the Tamil situation, were also translated into English. We've had Pumani, we've had Perumal Murugan, we've had Sivagami, many poets. Anand has done a great deal of work. A whole publishing house is set up after Karukku was published in English, 2-3 years later. Is it really marginalized? Can you really call it marginalized writing anymore? Because it's now got a platform which equals in power and energy anything that was mainstream, in spite of it being kept out. And can you say that all non-Dalit teachers are against the thing? I don't think so. You have a number of sympathizers there. Upper caste translators, upper caste publishers, upper caste editors, upper caste literary critics. They've built up. I mean, I think I can do a whole book on the articles that have been published on Karukku, and all of them extremely complimentary and supportive.
Yeah, first of all, just me becoming a star is not enough. Yeah, one thing, or my book alone. And even now, the whole lot of people are still marginalized, and they are living a very hard life. Yeah, writings. And now there are publishers asking for our books. It was not like when I found it very difficult in '91. I won't totally say that all are against us, as you said, but I don't use this word sympathizers, but maybe you are able to empathize with us. And yes, there are opportunities open to us in Tamil literary circle also, even in other languages also. But my question is, Okay, yeah, okay. When we celebrated this 25th anniversary, that director Ranjit asked this question on YouTube. Were there. I think you left there. He asked, when Bama wrote Karukku in 91, she has registered about 2 murders in her village, riots. But after 25 years, now celebrating the Silver Jubilee, she has written another novel, One Mum. There she has recorded more than 20 murders in that place. So what is the change then? So it is all the more increasing. The caste violence, the atrocities, and killing of Dalits and segregating them, all in new forms and genres, it is there. Untouchability is there, caste discrimination is there, but it has taken new forms. So, yeah, one way there are people who support us, who really want to publish our book and they encourage us, and youngsters study about it, do research. This is one side. But the other side, equally it is the atrocities or the violence against them is increasing all the more. So the more we are aware of our rights and we raise our voice, the more we are suppressed. That kind of feeling we get.
Yes, I don't think I don't think there's a single person here who would contest that. That atrocities are increasing when privilege is threatened, that will happen. And they really don't know the answer to that, except to resist it in different ways. Let's talk about religion and caste, because that's the other great wall, several walls. All the ills of casteism are often laid at the door of Hinduism, which sanctions caste, not the highest philosophy, but the practice of it. And it is so pervasive that it has affected other religions as well, Sikhism, Islam. I've seen it in my own surroundings, in my village here, and Christianity, which you left. Has there been any change there with, now there are 7 or 8 Dalit bishops in Tamil Nadu. Has that made a change with the rise of Dalits in the church? Has that made a change? Has it improved situations? Have the hostels improved? Has educational patterns for Dalit children improved? Has attitudes changed at all? Or is it a different kind? Because the other problem I want you to talk about is Dalits looking down on Dalits. The Arundhatiyas, for instance, in the Dalit communities, where does that come from? Is it the need for, like Jerry and I were talking about it earlier in a different context, is there a deep human need to want to look down on someone or to feel superior to everybody else? Everybody's looking down on somebody else.
Yeah, I think it is a human instinct, I think. One person wants to suppress the other one, and we want someone to be under us all the time. It is there. Even among Dalits, we have these subcaste divisions. And in all religion, as you say, theory is good. The practice, the values and the convictions are what Jesus also taught. And all the religion talks about love. And all those things are there. But in practice, in Christianity also you have Dalit Christians and this Christian, that Christian with caste. And the higher posts, all those things in the church are given to only the upper caste people. Dalits have to fight for that post. Though we are good in numbers in the church, particularly in Tamil Nadu church, we have to fight to have our own bishops or our own priests or some post in the schools or colleges like that. So much so, they announced 10 years, it is meant for Dalit development and we have to take care of them. And only a few institutions, they give admissions and appointments. But after admitting the children in their colleges, that is it. After that, they don't care for them. And for us, the Dalit children, who most of us, they studied in vernacular languages, they are not able to cope up with the higher studies or even the culture there. And even to looking at the huge buildings, they are terrified like. But the college priests or nuns, whoever it is, I am talking about Christianity, they don't show any compassionate look on them, or even to have some counseling or to encourage them to continue. So after a few weeks or months, some of them, they just ran away. They don't continue in the studies. So it is a big problem because their psyche is actually wounded very much. So religion doesn't help.
Religion doesn't help. What about the media? Why is it that, I mean, that's a rhetorical question. There are hardly any Dalits in newsrooms in the English, but what about the regional languages? Are they present in the Tamil medium, for instance?
No, no.
Are there reporters? Are there sub-editors? Are there...
A few have tried actually. One Dalit Murasu and Dalit in English, Dalit Murasu in Tamil, and Kalaham and Air. So there were a lot of journals. Dalit people started, but eventually everything was stopped because of lack of fund, a lack of support, and mainstream people don't buy it.
I see. Well,
except people who really want.
Who try to support it. It's really more out of charity than a... I think a scholarship was set up to train Dalit journalists some years ago. They hardly had any applicants, and there hardly any applications is what I heard. Is this correct? Have you heard about it?
Where in the colleges?
No, it was a private, it was a scholarship set up, and it went online. Is Anand sitting here?
Yeah, he is there.
Didn't something like that happen? Did you, I remember you're circulating, what was it, a scholarship, a training program for Dalit journalists and editors? We'll talk about it later, okay.
Yeah.
So I seem to remember that there were no applications, no one came forward. So that too was a bit startling.
No, even then the people say no, in the higher education thing or in the top level appointment, the SE quota, normally they talk about it. Oh, they are not qualified and there are no places are not filled because there is no Dalit people, no Dalit candidate, qualified candidate, they say. See, even in the primary level itself, there are so many dropouts. They are not able to complete even their high school studies. Then how will they go to do some graduation and then go to PG and all those things? No, it is a dream for them. So they have to complete from the beginning. No? Nobody takes care of that. Say, I taught in a primary school for more than 20 years. I knew that what a difficulty we used to bring those children and keep in the classroom. And for this reason or that reason, they will run away. So they are not able to cope up with the tension and the stress and strain of these institutions. And most of the teachers are against Dalit students, I would say. And they have a label and they brand Dalit children as good for nothing. And they say, openly they say, oh, these belong to ST category, they want to read. They are not able to study. They are like that. They are Buddhus. They are this. So this kind of remarks do not allow people really to flourish in the lower level itself. Not only non-Dalit teachers, even Dalit teachers, some of them are doing that. So it is really painful thing to see. So only when they are able to complete and compete with others here, then only they will think of the other things, no? So naturally there is no candidate to fill it up.
It's missing. The base is missing. Right. Who are the writers you read regularly? Who are the people you go... Do you reread? Do you read the other Dalit writers who write in Tamil? Do you read translations of other regional language Dalit writers? Do you keep in touch?
I have read almost all Tamil Dalit writers. Imayam, starting with Poomani, Piragu, his novel Poomani, and the Sri Lankan writer Daniel. So I have read all those things. Here also, Vilipai Dev, and then Poomani, Dharman, Alahiya Periyal, so many. And also there are so many young poets, girls, women. beautifully they write. I have read all their poems, and some of them are translated. And you brought an anthology, no? So it is widely spread and well known, well accepted. Also from Telugu, some of the writers there from Telugu, I had, when we meet in meetings like this only we come to know, and very difficult to get in translation into Tamil or into English. But even then some Marathi novels, Uchalia, this Lakshman Gaikwad novels, and so those things on Vidiyal Padiyam brought it in Tamil. I read that. And Anand brought so many books, Urvasi, Urmila Pawar, and about Ambedkar's Vimayan and other things. So all those things, first of all, through him only I came to know Ambedkar's creative writing, when he was, in what are the way he was segregated and treated in a very inhuman way. So all these things, it really inspired us, especially Ambedkar's writing and writings, and from this Poisoned Bread, Juthan, The Untouchable. So here and there I have read so many books from different languages. But after reading all those things, the common problem is the same. Yeah, when Karukku was published also, so many people wrote to me. We felt as if we are reading our own life story. That was because the problem is the same. Whether you are in Tamil Nadu, whether you are in Kashmir, the problem is the same. The caste segregation and untouchability, it affects you, affects your mind, and paralyzes you wherever you are. So that experience is the same. So everybody said that. And when I read other people's novels, I feel the same. Oh, this is what happened to me, or this is what happened to him also. That kind of oneness and sharing the pain and agony of it, and the shame that bring when we recall that. That's why when my first book, Karukku and Sangadi, was published, the title I gave is The Scars Becoming Wounds Again. So when it is not, when I write, it is not a joyful act, a happy moment, I won't say. Maybe my short stories, I would say. But when I wrote Karukku and Sangadi and all, it was a kind of cutting the wound again and experiencing the pain again. Because that you relive those shameful experiences, when you are in the school, in the college, or in the society, or when you travel in the bus, or so many things, what happened to you. Similarly, when I read other person's books also, though the experience is that experienced by him, but it affects you. Same thing when a woman is raped, or when a woman is the Kairlanji or Ivuna are killed because of all those things, but whatever happen anywhere, it kills you. That is the thing.
Experience, which possibly is a liberating thing when you write, but rereading and reimagining, re-experiencing is again and again, and perhaps entering that prison-like space. We'd like to open this up to the audience if they want to share their doubts or ask any questions. Could the organizers take over the... One of you would take this mic. Any questions from the audience? If anyone wants to take the discussion any further?
Ma'am, I have read about critics taking Sangadi as a common literary text and criticizing it based on its aesthetic values. What is your take on those critics who keep saying a book should have form over content, and even Dalit literature should be evaluated based on this classic aesthetic values? What is your take on that?
Okay, this I had heard several times. See, the classical aesthetic values and all, who decide it? And if you go back in history, there were no place for Dalits to write, and there no Dalit literature, at least in Tamil I can say. But there were writers who wrote about Dalits. And what they wrote about Dalits are, Dalits are impure, Dalits are thieves, Dalits are cheating people. So things like that. But when Dalits began to write, they already, the mainstream writers, as you say, they have set a framework. This is how a literary work, this is how a novel should be. This is how an autobiography should be. This is how a short story should be. This is how a poetry should be. So this is already set norms. But we don't want to follow that. But see, thousands of years, others dictated to us in many ways what to wear, what to eat, what not to eat, what animals we can rear, or where to go, which god we should go, in villages, which part of the village we have to live, and all those things. I mean, if you go back, even in 1930s, in Ambedkar book, it is given all kinds of rules. So here also, in the literary world also, they are dictating, this is how your work should be, this is how your content should be, this is how your language should be. They say this is aesthetic, they say this is decency, but for us this is not decency. Their decency is indecent for us. Their aesthetic value is ugly for us. So we have our own norms and rules, our own genre. So we follow that. Because years and years you suppress us, and you expect us to follow the same thing even for our future generation. Not necessary. So we follow, we decide this is the genre, this is the language, this is the tech, this is the culture. This is the people. I mean, millions and 20 million people are here. How can you just ignore their culture, ignore their experiences and their practical wisdom, their hard labor? So try to understand and feel, so many years we are not able to see the beauty of it. At least now it is open to you. Instead of accepting it, if you go on criticizing like this, then there will be no end. Then we need to resist and protest and prove ourselves, to establish ourselves, to say that this is what we, and this is what our culture, and we are human beings. We have to fight and restore our lost dignity.
Just to, something that Minnie had hinted at, but I don't think got taken up, was the idea of Dalit feminism. So could you just talk a little about what your ideas of Dalit feminism are?
Yeah. Generally we talk about feminism, means liberation, freedom from, because our society is a male-dominated society, and that also upper caste male-dominated society in India. So we need freedom, and men and women should be equal, all those things, the feminism. And Alice Walker, Afro-American, she coined the word womanism. And Dalits, we say Dalit womanism, instead of even Dalit feminism, Dalit womanism. Because the problems of Dalit women are different from that of women, any women. All over the world, women are second-class citizens only. But in Indian context, if we see, the upper caste women's problems and the Dalit women problems are not the same. But there are certain problems, same problem they experience, yes, male chauvinism and violence at home and childbearing, rearing, all those common. But when it comes to caste, the Dalit women are Dalits among Dalits. So their dreams, their aspirations, their liberation is different. They are oppressed by Dalit men, upper caste men, and upper caste women also. So it is a different feminism. So we need to, we say that Dalit womanism, which means we are second to none. We are equal to any man and any woman belong to any caste, whether Dalit or non-Dalit. So that is the Dalit feminism we talk about. And I feel comparatively Dalit women experience more freedom than the non-Dalit women, because they are hard-working people, moving around freely in their laboring places, in the fields, in the roadside construction, building construction. They are able to earn their bread on their own. Even if the husband doesn't care for the family, she can work and take care of the children and the family. So, and she happily lives amidst all the pains and tensions and stress, because her relationship is not only with men but with nature, with the soil, with the sky, with the water, with plants, with the trees, with animals, with cattle. So it is, the whole world is different for her. So she can comfort herself, their children, looking at the universe, looking at neighborhood, and getting together and talking with other women. That freedom is, inner freedom is more, I think. So that kind of feminism should be cherished and brought it up, yeah.
Vinny, I'd like you to respond to what Bama said just now as a, as someone I consider a feminist and, biographically you're upper caste. Do you think feminism let down the Dalit? Did the feminist woman, because of whatever reason, was there no reaching out to the Dalit woman?
I have several thoughts here and very mixed feelings. No, I'm not really a feminist. I believe in freedom and equality. I think certainly in India, the women's movement has not been understood by women themselves. And it was naturally intellectualized, and the kind of publications, the kind of journals, the kind of studies came from both sociological anthropology and history research was firmly upper caste, that vision and that gaze. I think in that terrific sweep, 80s and 90s, the Dalit question, the Dalit experience was really seen as some sort of a curiosity, in some sense museumified. Because again, the researchers, the writers, the thinkers, the ideologues didn't come from there. So they were still objects of study. I don't know being let down. I think they themselves have deep confusions and factions amongst themselves. So that's my response. And I think, all these things happen very slowly, the transformations and the changes. Women themselves can't get along once, they also get some sort of authority. There are lots of problems there. So it'll take, I think this generation will now establish a different kind of study, a different kind of equality. And I would say perhaps even instill some kind of fear. I've just finished editing a translation of a Kannada autobiography. The title is Samboli, with an exclamation. Samboli is the word that Dalits used to use to let upper castes know that they were coming. Now, the author is only 60. He died a couple of months ago. He's only 60 or 61. So it's not that long ago that he's talking about. Samboli, they would say, move aside, we're coming, we're coming. But now he says in his author's note, it's watch out, we are coming. Any other question?
Sorry, this is also to Mini, because I want to see, as a publisher who has published over 25 years now, and with a lot of focus on Dalit writing, how has it changed your attitude to Hinduism, which is like the elephant in the room always in every Dalit novel, or any piece of Dalit writing? With Ambedkar saying, a bad Hindu or a worse Hindu they can be, a good Hindu they can never be. And that is something, as a publisher, I belong to that camp. I mean, I'm a very partisan publisher in that sense. It has changed me. I want to know how all this has affected your perception of, I do still think you believe there is a good Hinduism and there's a bad Hinduism. There's a good Hinduism and there's a bad Hinduism. Is there such a thing?
I don't know about good Hinduism and bad Hinduism. I'm a student of Vedanta. It's extremely difficult to explain to people who have not studied the Upanishads, to people who have not tried to practice its precepts, that it's entirely different. It's quite different from the practice that you see of even those who are religious, pious, and so on. One of the remarks in the textbook that I published, in the introduction written by 3 academics, V. Padma, Tapan Basu, and Indranil Acharya, is a line: Hindus practice caste not because they are bad people, but because they are good Hindus. it's somehow worked into the text. It's a dangerous line to put into a textbook, but Oxford permitted it because said, in the interest of research, let it be there. When I see the students around, the people who attend these classes along with me, and as soon as the class breaks and I can hear their talk, like Swami Dayananda said once, students will say, I have been through 8 Upanishads. He asked satirically, how many Upanishads have been through you? If you haven't understood the great teaching which is available and which takes many years to understand, it's easy to intellectualize, but it takes years of nididhyasanam to absorb. It really is no use reading those texts. My commitment to Vedanta remains as it was, but all the things of rituals and all that, I have great respect for them. And the point of rituals is to cleanse your mind, not to become a prisoner of those rituals. How do I collaborate with honor with this terrific experience, this tremendous experience you can't ignore? It's extremely difficult. It's very difficult, Anand. Because I know the soaring feeling of truly understanding Vedanta. And I know that it's not available to a large section who will not be able to understand it because they don't have the vocabulary and they don't have the education. That is a great pain. The teaching itself, nobody can find fault with the teaching. But there are several layers of it. And the greatness of the faith is that it recognizes that people are at different levels of growth, intellectually and emotionally. So that's my answer.
Can I add one thing? See, not only in Hinduism, but you can't categorize as good Hindu, good Christian, bad Christian, whatever it is. But what I try to say is, whoever practices this caste, they are not human beings. Whether they belong to any religion or anything, they are not human beings. Because it does not degrades only the Dalits, but it is a disgraceful thing for them also. Because they are not, they don't have that humanness in them to treat the fellow human beings with equal dignity and respect. Everyone has their own self-esteem, self-respect. So if they are not doing it, if they are not practicing it, then it is a disgraceful thing for them also, that they don't realize. They think that they are superior to the others. It is not so. And frankly speaking, Dalits are superior to them because they consider and treat everybody as human beings. But the others, they don't. Whoever practices it. So everything is to a personal cleansing. How I look at this. Sometimes we speak about annihilation of caste, but we practice caste. When we look at people, non-Dalit people, then we show our real colors. So it is, everybody should have the self-examination and see that it is a disgraceful thing for them, and also we are disgracing other human person who is equally respectful and equal dignity he has. That mentality it has to be. Not simply for popularity sake or name sake or aesthetic sake. We can go on arguing like that. But self-examination. Who am I and how am I? What is my relationship with others? So now, before one thing, the Dalit culture, which is very much human and humorous, resilient and resisting culture, this will help the human race right now in this present situation to really liberate everybody. Because more and more we are running after money, running after fame, running after name, and there is, even in family itself, the relationship is so rigid, and we don't really spend time with one another in the family, and we don't care for one another. This is in a smaller unit family, and if you consider the whole society, it is all the more painful, all the more shameful that we don't look at each other. So when, with all this, in addition to this, when we consider this caste, then how much these people, Dalit people, have to face to liberate themselves, to establish themselves, and how much Dalit women, because for them, more than their femininity, their humanity is much more important to them. Because it is very much necessary for us to show or to prove to exist as human beings, first of all. Then only we can talk about our dignity and self-esteem, self-respect. Even to present myself as a human person with all feelings and emotions, it is not possible. Every moment of my life, I have to be very cautious and careful to live every moment of my life. So, it is not only for Dalits, but even for non-Dalits to check, to self-examine, and to really, if you want really to create an equal society with equality as Ambedkar said, fraternity and liberty, then we need to have the self-examination, and not out of sympathy or out of pity or having some kind of feeling towards other people. Not that. Everybody has the right to live, a decent life to live. That's it. So for that, if we really, if we decide, and if that is our dream, then there is a possibility of living at least a harmonious life to a certain extent. That's what I feel.
Thank you, Bama. Seated here by the sea, which brought the British to us, brought this language, liberating force of literature, of translation, of a meeting like this. I thank the organizers. Bama, I thank you very much for being so frank and for allowing this group into your life and being so honest about these discussions. Thank you very much, all of you.